So I needed a backup camera, and not only did I find a backup camera for $475 to go with my Panasonic S5, the original, not the S5 II, not the S5 IIX, just the S5. I needed a backup, and I didn't want to spend that much money. I almost bought an S1H, then I went down to an S5 II, then I went down to another S5, and then I started to really investigate and watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and I got to the GH5S because I shoot a lot in low light. But I just kept watching these videos about the GH5, and it's this legendary camera, like absolutely legendary, you know. And I saw so much amazing footage from YouTubers, you know, from content creators who I actually believed, like really amazing work. And there was just something very pure about the GH5. Like, it just seems like it was like the first affordable mirrorless camera that was really looked at as a professional filmmaking tool, even though it was micro four thirds, and I've never used a micro four thirds camera before. And so, I don't know, I just started to become really interested in it. And honestly, I was interested in the GH6 when it was coming out, just because of the specs, and I don't know, there was just something about it. Like, I've worked with an APS-C camera in the past, but now my main camera is the S5. My only camera is the Panasonic S5, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it, but I dropped it a couple of weeks ago. Well, I didn't drop it, but the wind took it away. And it just occurred to me that when I'm taking money from people, I should have a backup. So I wound up getting a GH5 because I found one for $475, which was like $300 cheaper than any GH5S. And it's kind of tight right now. I just spent my entire life savings on a feature film that I shot for the last couple of years. And so I just wanted to save money, and I wanted to have something that would be a good, decent backup in case, God forbid, anything happens to my S5, which I don't expect that to happen, but I just felt like it was the responsible thing to do. But I also wanted to be responsible to what's going on with my life right now, where I just didn't want to spend that much money. Well, I got this GH5, and honestly, when I first got it, it started out like hell. Like, first of all, I couldn't even turn it on. So I went through all kinds of crazy stuff. I eventually figured out it was the battery, because I had one of the old batteries, and you know, even though I bought it on eBay and it said it was checked and everything's working, obviously nobody had touched this camera for many years. It was obvious. So I put in one of my BLK22 batteries from the S5, came on right away, turned on. Then I was getting like SD card errors, but I was able to use the original battery. That's when I was getting the errors, so I put my S5 battery back in, and the BLK22 batteries, that's it. Everything's fine. So after, I don't know, 4 hours of trying to figure out how to turn it on, and then getting used to, you know, how to use micro four thirds, because I'm used to full frame, so everything looked really dark. I adapted my Minolta 28mm f2.8 lens to it. So f2.8 doesn't look the same as f2.8 on full frame, so I just had to adjust myself. And then I took the camera out and I just started shooting. And I tested everything, like from 1080 to 4K to Cinema 4K, straight 24 frames per second I'm shooting. Although the thing is, if you shoot straight 24, it's amazing. But then every option you have is just 24, and that's it. Like, you can't go to 60 frames per second in 4K. So you have to use the slow motion mode that the camera has, which is incredible. Like, I am astounded at the image quality coming out of this camera. I mean, it's just as good, if not better, than my S5. I mean, it's incredible image quality. Unbelievable. I'm using Vlog, but I also use Cine D, which looked pretty cool. But I like shooting Vlog, so I have Vlog. It came in the camera, so somebody installed it already. The thing is, if you continue to shoot NTSC, which is 23.976, you have more options. Then you can shoot 4K 60, so you can, like, that's the way I would prefer to do slow motion. just shoot in 60p and then slow it down in DaVinci Resolve. But this camera, even though it goes to 8-bit, it slows it down in camera and it looks beautiful. It looks amazing. Like, I'll show some stuff here and you tell me if you could tell the difference. Like, the footage looks like a movie. Everything coming out of this camera just looks like a movie. It's unbelievable. And so, I don't know, I guess the only thing that bothers me about this camera is the dial that's near the grip up on top by your thumb. It's like, just like the S5, it's like way too easy to move it by accident. And so I set up shutter angle and every once in a while it moves and suddenly I'm not at 180 and that is annoying. But that is literally the only thing that bothers me about this camera. When I put my S5 batteries in this, it ran all day. And I have the screen up all the way, like 100%, as bright as it can be. Like, everything in this camera, I'm just really impressed. And so it just occurred to me, like, if I had bought this camera first, instead of going with the Sony a6400, man, I would have been micro four thirds down. Like, I would have been a huge fan, advocate. I would have been talking all kinds of mess about micro four thirds, because between all the, all the stuff that I've seen on YouTube, like all the work that people have created, and then my own experience with it now, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's got anamorphic mode. It's pretty much got open gate, because I could shoot anamorphic mode with my spherical lenses, and so I'm getting the full 4x3 readout of the sensor, and so that's kind of open gate, right? So the options on this camera are amazing. I mean, it's got many, many more function buttons than the S5 has. So it's like, you could set it up any way that you want to. It's like customizable to the max. So I got, like in a day, this camera was like in my body. Like, it was just easy to use. I mean, the menu is very similar to the S5, so it was easy for me to pick up. But man, it's a great camera. Okay, autofocus. I don't use autofocus, so I don't care. So honestly, I didn't even test it, because I'm not going to use it anyway. I use autofocus on the S5 to do videos like this sometimes, but not often. But I don't really use autofocus. So the S5 is still going to be my main camera, because I have anamorphic lenses for it. I have, well, actually, I can use all my lenses for the S5 that on this camera, because I got an adapter, $12 adapter. So I adapted my Minolta. I have 4 Minolta lenses, a 28-35 and a 50, and I mean 3 Minolta lenses, and I have a Helios 44-2. So I have adapters for all of them for this camera now as well. I can't adapt my Sigma 28-70, so if I want one zoom lens for this camera, I might have to buy one. But right now, I like this 28mm. It's obviously a 56mm on this camera. But the stabilization is amazing. Like everybody says, the colors are brilliant. I mean, just beautiful. Like I said, everything looks like a movie. And I could shoot straight 24 FPS. So I eliminate that kind of issue with DCPs for theatrical showings. But I found out that's not really a thing, so that's no big deal. The only thing that I did want that I don't have with this camera is an optical low-pass filter. That's the reason I was looking at the S1H, but you know what? I'm going to do a video about that too. I've been working on, because I thought about it, and like I went out with the S5 the other day and I tried to get moire to show up in my shots. Like, I shot at everything I could think of to try to cause that shimmery, annoying stuff. And so it's not a big deal. I don't really care about it anymore. I obsessed over it for a while. Now I'm done with that. So it's cool. I don't need it. I mean, it's all about the story. The image quality is absolutely amazing on my S5 and on this camera. So I guess for this video, can the Panasonic GH5 be your main camera in 2024? Absolutely. Like, if you can't make great content with this camera, you got to go back to the drawing board and learn how to make content, how to shoot video, how to do filmmaking. Because this thing is a beast, and it's also built like a beast. And by the way, I thought micro four thirds, I thought it was going to be smaller and lighter. It's just as big as the S5. It's just as heavy. So, and it's really, I mean, it's weather sealed. Feels like it could take a beating, and I'm really hard on my gear. And so I'm just so happy with this thing. Now, It's probably going to sit on the shelf because the S5 is still going to be my main camera, but I am very confident that I have a great backup camera now that is equal to the task of the S5. And trust me, the S5, I love it so much. Like, I love that camera. And the bottom line to me is, what does your video look like when you're done? You know, what does your filmmaking look like? What is the final product? You know, what is the image quality? That's the only thing that really matters to me at the end of the day. Now, yeah, usability, ergonomics, all that stuff. I mean, this camera feels great. It's not a gigantic camera, and it's not too small. And again, like I said, the stabilization is great. And if I got the GH5S, I wouldn't have had any stabilization. So I'm grateful for this. And I shot a lot in low light over the last couple of days, and I'll put some, put some images right here. It's amazing. It looks awesome. So it's got a native ISO of 400. It doesn't have dual native ISO like the S5. But I noticed that I could push the ISO in this a little bit more than on the S5, and maybe that's because of the dual native ISO. And you just, like with the S5, I just say it's 640 and 4000, period. And on this camera, I'm just going to try to stick with 400. But if I have to shoot low light, I'll pump the ISO a little bit. But like if I wind up using this camera more, I'll get a lens that's like 0.095 or a 1.7 or something like that. Like, I'll get a really fast lens. I mean, I have a 50mm f1.4, but that's 100 millimeters on this camera, so it's not too flexible, you know. So anyway, amazing. Yes, you could use the GH5 as your main camera in 2024. It could be your A cam, it could be your B cam, it could be anything. You can carry it around with you. You can adapt so many lenses to this. You can get anamorphic lenses for it if you want. I'm not going to buy more anamorphic lenses unless my S5 like has a car accident and it goes away and it's dead forever. And then I'll sell my anamorphics and get for this. But I'm not going to feel like I have to, oh my God, go get another camera just because I don't have full frame. Like, this thing looks amazing. Look at it. I mean, look at this right now. It looks cool, right? If I'm in focus. So anyway, I'm going to end this video now. So, unbelievable. I found a backup, $475. It's in great condition. The guy who sold me the camera sent me a new battery, so I'm very, very happy about that. And it's a great backup. It would be a great A camera. I'm going to do a video on Moray next. And also, I got a video coming up. I should be getting my father's film back soon. The ECN2 processing film that I've been trying to get processed for a couple of years, film from 1988 that was probably stuff that he shot way before 1988 when he died. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Success with the GH5. Still in love with the S5, the OG, the original one. I'm manual focus all the way. And nothing wrong with autofocus. I love it, but I don't use it. To me, autofocus is like the camera has to like read your mind for me to trust it. Like, if it's just about YouTube, okay, but that's not my priority. Like, I'm making feature films and documentaries, so I'm always going to use manual focus. And if you're doing that kind of work, so are you probably. So S5, awesome. GH5, amazing. Very happy. And that's it. So I'll see you next time. Oh, please subscribe. And please hit the like button if you like this. And thank you so much for hanging around. And that's it. Okay.